everyone. So, new video today, the third Doctor discussion. Now, the third Doctor was played by the most and brilliantly actor, aka Jon Pertwee. Now, all of me shelves here are actually full of Jon Pertwees. Even the bottom ones, so I can't really fit them all out. So, like I've done for William Hartnell and Patrick Troughton, where I talked about the stories, the Doctor themselves, and of course, the ranking of each story of the Doctor's era. So let's get straight into the Doctor's personality. Now, after the departure of Patrick Troughton and the Time Lords putting the Doctor on trial for his crimes, for basically not obeying the Time Lords' rule of non-interference, but the Doctor being the Doctor, you know what the Doctor's like. The Doctor does break the Time Lords' rules a load of times. So, by the time we get to the third incarnation of the Doctor, he is now in exile. The secret of the TARDIS has been taken from him and wiped from his mind. The Doctor is basically stranded on Earth. Not a really good way to sell this kind of season, but it is an actually good Doctor. Jon Pertwee as the third Doctor is incredible. He does martial arts. He drives cool cars like the Humobile, Bessie, and he works for UNIT, the Unified Intelligence Task Force, run, of course, by the Brigadier Alice Gordon Lethbridge, which were introduced way back in Season 6 story, The Invasion, which is Patrick Troughton's last story with the Brigadier. As you can tell, I'm actually in my new chair to film this video, and it's actually a lot comfortable, and so, for the Doctor's stories, well, instead of like having it like that, like the way I've done it in the background, I have completed all of Jon Pertwee's DVDs. And of course, all the Blu releases we've had so far for Jon Pertwee. So, everything for the Jon Pertwee era is basically complete. I own every Jon Pertwee story on DVD wise. I absolutely love Jon Pertwee's Doctor. He's a really good Doctor. So, instead of like leaving it like this, and I'm going to pull the camera a bit backwards, and then I will show you about the DVDs I've got. So let's get straight into it. So can you see? Yeah, we are. That's a lot better, isn't it? Let me just there we are. So Jon Pertwee's very first story was actually called Spearhead from Space. Now, if you look on the top shelf here, if you can see clearly, I actually own the two DVD versions, and of course the 2016 Blu-ray version. I absolutely love Spearhead from Space. It's a good introduction to the Doctor, especially when he falls at the TARDIS and lands in hospital. I actually think the hospital are joking around. And of course, there's actually not. The third Doctor arrives in the middle of an Auton invasion. And when he kicks in, steals a car, steals some clothes from the hospital, steals the car, and goes to Unit HQ. He decides to work with Liz Shaw and the Brigadier to help him out against against the Autons. And then, of course, for Season 7, we have 4 more stories for Jon Pertwee. We have Doctor Who and the Silurians. Now, Doctor Who and the Silurians is a good story. It introduces the Silurians, the Homo Reptilia, or that we had introduced way back in Series 5 of New Who. We also have the incredible Ambassadors of Death. Not many people do like the Ambassadors. Some people find it a bit slow and other stuff, but I actually don't mind it. I actually find it a really good Jon Pertwee story. It's kind of like a James Bond story, but Doctor Who wise, and it's absolutely fantastic. And then, of course, we have Inferno, which I got 2 DVD versions here. I got the normal release and, of course, the special edition release. Now, this is where the Doctor enters into a parallel universe, and the same problems that's going on there is on Earth. So the Doctor has to, well, you know, the Doctor, he's literally there helping out that is people, and then he escapes his TARDIS to stop it from happening to our universe, into our universe, like the parallel universe, to stop it from happening. So then coming into Season 8. Now, as you can tell, for Season 8, here's all the DVDs, and of course the Blu-ray box that we had released back on the 8th of March. Now, what is Season 8 about? It's the Master season. This season came out 50 years ago, and it is an incredible season. I absolutely do love it. So, Tale of the Autons is a really, really good story because it introduces the Master, Katie Madigan as Jo Grant, Captain Mike Yates, and hard in charge of unit, and it's a really good, enjoyable actual episode. I love the whole Auton invasion. I like how the Master takes the Nestine consciousness control unit, activates it, and creates himself a little Auton army. Why he's actually calling for Auton invasion, but unfortunately he is stopped by the Third Doctor, Jo, and unit. The story after, which is basically the Mind of Evil. Now this one is a really good Jon Pertwee story. It's set in a prison, all-style prison. I absolutely kind of do love this one, especially when you have that machine and it's like, no, and then you see the Doctor's fears, which is of Daleks, really. And then when it does it to the Master, you just see Jon Pertwee standing there laughing at him, which is a really good video. It's literally a really good episode. Claws of Axos. So I actually own the original DVD here, and of course the special edition. This is my favourite Jon Pertwee story. This was the very first Jon Pertwee story I basically watched with the Master in it, and I just love it. And it's one of my favourite Jon Pertwee stories completely. I love the whole Axon design. I like the two Axons design actually, like the humanoid, and then that I like how the Doctor traps inside a time loop in a quantum time loop to stop so they can die in peace instead of them feeding off the Earth's energy. Connery in Space. Now, Connery in Space is not a good story. I don't really like the Connery in Space, even though there's two versions in the Blu-ray. I still don't like it. I find it like a really boring episode. The only good thing about it is that the Master pops in round about episode 3 or 4. The Master pops in, and that's when it gets a lot better. But episodes 1 and 2 do drag a lot. Then of course we have the Daemons or the Demons. Daemons or Demons, which one or the other. What can I say to you about the Daemons? Now, the Daemons is a really good, interesting actual episode of Doctor Who. One of my personal favourite stories, and it has the great devil beast, Azal. Now, I absolutely do love it where the Master calls him and then goes to the Doctor. I am not going to grant him my power. I'm going to grant him you my power. And the Master goes, you can't do that. And the Doctor goes, no, I don't want it. I absolutely do love that because in that moment you can see the Doctor just wants to live and be good, where the Master just wants everything to have his control. So, and of course, there's these 8 boxes with all of these stories that I have just talked about. I actually preferred them in the Blu-ray box set, but I'm never going to get the DVDs. So, the Day of the Daleks. Now, Day of the Daleks, there's 2 versions of. You've got the special edition and the normal version. The normal version is a really, really boring story. The special edition version is actually a lot better and a lot enjoyable. I really, really do enjoy that story, specifically that one. The Daleks, the special edition. I love the Ogrons, I love the Daleks. I like how the Daleks are in control of Earth in the future until they get the timelines change and the Doctor stops them. Then, of course, we go into the Curse of Peladon. Now, the Curse of Peladon is an absolutely classic story. Now, this one sees the return of the Ice Warriors since the Seas of Death, and in this story, they're more like a good guy than they are basically villains. And the Doctor's like trying to persuade people that the Ice Warriors are evil, when actually they're being good this time. It's a really quite enjoyable story. I do love it, especially with Sentry Alpha. Sentry Alpha, the big giant alien with the eye who made an appearance in Series 10 story. I actually do like that character. Then, of course, we have the Sea Devils. And, of course, the Master returns after being put in prison in the Daemons. And the Master is stirring up trouble in the prison cell. He's actually calling the Sea Devils. And the Sea Devils are going in, attacking Navy bases. It's a really quite enjoyable story, actually. I do love it. 6 parts long, quite enjoyable. The Mutants. Now, the Mutants is a really dull Jon Pertwee story. I really don't like this one. The Doctor, is sent on a mission for the Time Lords. Not really good, enjoyable story. I absolutely don't like the Mutants. I need to rewatch it, actually. I can't remember what happens in it. I've only watched, like, 1 episode of it, and I thought it just dragged too much. And then, of course, for season 9, we have the Time Monster. Now, I love the Time Monster. It's a good Doctor versus Master. I like how the Master escapes at the end from Kronos, the giant Greek myth. And then, of course, we end up in Atlantis, the missing city of Atlantis. It's in the story. It's a really, really good story. Especially the only thing about it I actually do find funny is where Sergeant Benton's like turned into a child by the Tom Titgad machine. And then, of course, we are into season 10 with the 3 Doctors. I've talked about this story discussing with the first Doctor and second Doctor. Now, I absolutely love this. This is mainly a Jon Pertwee story because it does open up with Jon Pertwee. But as I said, the second and first Doctors just popping to help the third Doctor battle against Omega. I absolutely love it when the Doctor's battling Omega, the dark side of Omega's mind. That one is a really interesting kind of scene, really, where the Doctor just batters the Omega. And that they all get transported into the world of antimatter. And, of course, antimatter and matter can't really like meet because it will create a chain reaction, and it basically does when the Doctor drops Omega's temper, drops the Doctor's force field generator out, and the second Doctor's flute falls out of it, and then it's just like that, and everything gets turned back into proper places. And then, of course, into the next story, which is Carnival of Monsters. So this story does basically pick up after the 3 Doctors, where after all the Doctors go back in the time zones, the third Doctor gets his freedom back to time travel in the TARDIS because the Time Lords, as an award, gives him back his a brand new demetaterialization circuit. So the third Doctor can go back traveling in time and space. Now, after 3 seasons based on Earth, with only 2 stories set not on Earth, which is Colony Space and, of course, the Mutants. This is the very first time we see the Doctor go to a new alien planet on his own, piloting the TARDIS without the Time Lord's help. And, of course, he ends up in a machine. A time machine, like not a machine, the TARDIS is accidentally materialized inside it, where they actually become miniaturized, and you got a dinosaur in an Indian Ocean with a missing ship. Drassics. The Drassics are really cool. I love the Drassics. I actually got a hand puppet of the Drassics. It's just up there. I actually do love the Drassics. They're really good. I really think they should come back. This story is an actual okay. I will tell you about it when I do the ranking video. So the next one is an actual DVD box set, which I've got here. So I'm going to quickly show you it because it's a really interesting one. It's called Dalek War. Now, I absolutely do love this box set because you can have 2 good stories in here. You have Frontier in Space, which is a really, really classic story. I absolutely do love Frontier in Space. And it is Roger Delgado's last appearance as the Master because the actor unfortunately passes away after in a car crash in Turkey while filming something. Then, of course, we have Planet of the Daleks. The Daleks are on Spyridon, trying to get the ability to basically get the invisible energy. Now, that one's mainly okay. I do actually quite enjoy that one. Then, of course, we have the Green Death. Now, this one is a bit like the Spider episode from Series 11. It's a bit like that one, really, but it's quite enjoyable, actually. But instead of having giant spiders, you have giant maggots and giant flies. Basically waste from the chemicals, and they actually mutate into giant maggots and flies, and it's a really actually interesting story, and personally one of my favorites because it is Katie Managan's last ever story as Jo Grant before she returns in 2011 in the Sarah Jane Adventures. Is that it? Also for season 10, not series 10, sorry, season 10, I own the Blu-ray version with all of the stories I just talked about in this. I absolutely prefer them on the Blu-ray set. You can actually tell the difference between the high definition and the standard, but it's actually quite really nice to own the 2 versions. Then coming into season 11 with the very first story, The Time Warrior. Now, this is a classic story for Doctor Who fans because not only is season 11 Jon Pertwee's last story, we have Elizabeth Sladen as Sarah Jane Smith's introduction in this. We have the introduction to the the Santarans. Basically, and it's a really, really good prehistoric story with the Santaran in prehistoric Earth, literally making guns and weapons literally centuries before this should really happen to help this really really mad king who's trying to kill everyone and take over. But it's a really good story, traveling. Then of course we have Invasion of the Dinosaurs. Now on this book it's a lot better. On the script, I've read the script on the website, it was supposed to be better, but the really bad thing about this is the CGI effects really do let the story down a lot. If this story comes out on Blu-ray in season 11, I hope this is the one with the special treatment. I just do. It's an okay story, but it's not the best because the CGI does bring it down a lot. And then, of course, into my very first Jon Pertwee story I ever watched with my dad on VHS, which is Death to the Daleks. Now, this was my very first ever Doctor Who story I ever watched with my dad at 3 years old. And I just absolutely love it. Set on the planet Exodus. You got a whole colony that were brought down and crashed, and they had to make up survival. The Daleks do exactly the same thing. They crash land and they lost their weapons for a bit. It's a really good way to see a Dalek not getting the chance to exterminate. He literally just screams, exterminate, exterminate. And he's like there with crossbows and stuff, just go into a Dalek. It's an actual really good story. I do love that one. It's a bit silly, but when you get the Daleks get like the little machine guns added onto them, that's when they know they're taking over the planet like they do. The Monster of Peladon is the next story. Now, this one is an actual okay story. I actually love it. Return to Peladon. The Ice Warriors are basically the villains in this. Yes, and they go back to being the villains when they're actually good in Curse of Peladon. It's a really, really good story. Jon Pertwee is brilliant. Elizabeth Sladen is brilliantly done. And I absolutely do love it. So coming into Jon Pertwee's last story, which is Planet of the Spiders. Alright. What can I say about this story? It is an absolutely amazing story. I absolutely love it. Giant spiders on an alien planet, aka Metebelis 3. They're only large because of the Metebelis crystals enlarged them. Jon Pertwee is brilliantly done as the third Doctor in this. He really does go out with a bang. I love episode 3 where he's like, "Don't do that," and he starts fighting him, and you get the one where he goes like, "Hey!" like that, and then he just looks at the back of him. I do love when Jon Pertwee does go like that. It's a really good and fun, interesting story for Jon Pertwee to do, and I absolutely love it. So for the third Doctor, now unfortunately on screen, the third Doctor does make a return, and it is only one return he has. Basically, he did return for 2, but the other one isn't really classed as canon because they end up Doctor Who meets EastEnders at that point in that one, so it's not really classed as a actual canon wise, but it's a okay story, so I'm not really going to talk about that. But for canon wise, Jon Pertwee's last ever story as the third Doctor is actually in the 5 Doctors, basically from 1983, where the first, second and third Doctors are pulled out of time. The 4th Doctor is just stuck in the time loop, so he can't get out of it. Meet up where basically the first, second and third meet up with the 5th Doctor, and they have to try and stop Brucella from gaining immortality. But he literally, as we all know, they all go back into their time zones. And that is it for Jon Pertwee. So, everything for Jon Pertwee, the Tough Action Doctor. Now, this video is actually 18 minutes 45 at the moment. Now, I actually do love Jon Pertwee's Doctor. He's a really, really interesting Doctor. If we were going to have the third Doctor return and recast, I would actually love to have his actual son, aka Sean Pertwee, who plays Alfred in Gotham, who is, as the one who plays the butler Alfred is actually Jon Pertwee's son, Sean Pertwee. I would actually love to see Sean Pertwee play the third Doctor for his father. I'd like to see that. They like to keep that in the family, father and son playing the wonderful third incarnation of the Doctor. So, for ranking wise, Spearhead from Space is 10 out of 10. Doctor Who and the Silurians is 10 out of 10. The Ambassador's Death, even though I enjoy it, it's literally a 6 out of 10. Inferno is a 10 out of 10 because that's a really good one. Terror of the Autons, again, 10 out of 10. I love the new Blu-ray effect for it. That really bunks up that story there. The Mind of Evil, a 7 out of 10. Claws of Axos, a 10 out of 10 because I absolutely love it. On Connery in Space is basically a 1 out of 10. I just don't really like that story that much. The Daemons, or the Demons, is a 10 out of 10 because I absolutely love it. Days of the Daleks is a 2 out of 10 for the original, but the special edition, as I said, it does book it up a lot better. The Curse of Peladon is a 10 out of 10. The Sea Devils is 10 out of 10. The Mutants, again, I've only watched one episode, so I need to rewatch this one, but from what I've seen of it, it is basically a 1 out of 10. The Time Monster, brilliantly done. I love it. It's a 7 out of 10. The Three Doctors is 10 out of 10. Carnival of Monsters is a 10 out of 10. Frontier in Space, 10 out of 10. Planet of the Daleks is 10 out of 10. The Green Death's 10 out of 10. The Time Warrior is basically even though it's an introduction story to Elizabeth Sladen, it is a 5 out of 10 because it's enjoyable and stuff, but it still has certain aspects missing. The Dinosaur Invasion, the Invasion of the Dinosaurs is a 10 out of 10, but it's just the CGI really do bring it down a lot. Really does bring that one down a lot. Death the Daleks is 10 out of 10 for me. Not many people do like them because people find the music a bit draggy, but I actually kind of like it. The Monster of Peladon is 10 out of 10, and Planet of the Spiders is 10 out of 10. So that is it for Jon Pertwee's Doctor, for what I think of the tough action Doctor. Please join me tomorrow at some point after I finish work, where either tomorrow or Sunday actually, where I will be talking about the Tom Baker era. Now, Tom Baker has a lot of stories in his era. As he said, the Doctor for 7 years, and I don't really think I'm going to fit all his stories and Blu-rays on this actual shelf. So I might have to make space behind me and put them like that there across as well. So I will sort that out. So thank you for watching this video. Please do like, subscribe and share to my channel. Let me know in the comments what you love about Jon Pertwee. Who is your favourite companion with the Third Doctor? Is it Liz Shaw, Sarah Jane Smith, or Jo Grant? With me, I actually prefer Katie Flanagan as Jo Grant with the Third Doctor, while Sarah Jane, it really works well with the Fourth Doctor. And of course, we have Brigadier Alistair Gordon Lethbridge Stewart. We have Sergeant Benton. And of course, Captain Mike Yates as well. Let me know what's your favourite character. Who's your favourite villain? Mine has got to be the Master, because every time it's a Master story, it does perk up a lot. Followed by Daleks. The only thing I have got a complaint about the Jon Pertwee era is that it's such a shame the Third Doctor never encountered the Cybermen in his own era. He has to wait until the 5th to the 20th anniversary, which is the 5 Doctors, to battle against the Cybermen. I would have loved it for him to battle the Cybermen in his own time. So thank you for watching this video. Please do like, subscribe and share to my channel, and join me either tomorrow or Sunday for when I talk about the Fourth Doctor's era.